All right, let's talk about the Eurimages Cinema Support Fund. For a lot of cinema exhibitors, that application can feel like trying to solve some complex bureaucratic puzzle. But you know what? It really doesn't have to be. Today, we're going to transform that whole process from a hurdle into a strategic playbook. We're going to break down every single step, every rule, and every number, so you can go after this support with total confidence. Okay, let's dive in. So, first things first, you've got to understand what you're applying for. Eurimages isn't just some random fund. We're talking about the Cultural Support Fund of the Council of Europe, and it's been a pillar of the industry since 1989. So this is way more than just financial aid. It's about aligning your cinema with one of the most prestigious cultural institutions in all of Europe. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the opportunity itself, then we'll walk step by step through your eligibility, the programming thresholds you have to meet, and exactly how the funding works. Then, we'll wrap up with the critical commitments you have to make and a final checklist to make sure your application is absolutely flawless. Let's get started. So, what's the real opportunity here? Honestly, it's so much bigger than just a subsidy check. When you succeed, your cinema joins the highly respected Europa Cinemas Network. That instantly elevates your cultural standing and plugs you into a massive, continent-wide community of fellow exhibitors. Now, let's look at how these benefits really stack on top of each other. Of course, you've got the direct financial support. That's huge. But then you get membership in the Europa Cinemas Network, which gives you access to all this coordinated information and initiatives. That, in turn, makes you better at promoting diverse European films, which then boosts your cinema's visibility and prestige. It all just feeds into itself, creating this incredible upward spiral. Okay, let's get down to business. Our first practical step, and it is an absolutely critical one, is confirming your eligibility. Think of this as the qualifying round. Before you spend even a minute on the application, you have to be 100% certain that you meet these core requirements. This right here is a make or break checklist. First, you have to be in a member state that doesn't have access to the Creative Europe Media Program. We're talking about countries like Argentina, Canada, Switzerland, and Turkey, for example. Then, check your numbers. You need to be open for at least 6 months, have 520 screenings, 70 seats, and hit 20,000 admissions. On top of that, you need professional gear and a real box office system. I'd seriously recommend you pause here and check your own cinema stats against this list. It's the first gate you have to get through. So, you're eligible. Fantastic! Now we get to the real heart of the strategy, mastering the programming thresholds. These are the rules of the game. And believe me, understanding them isn't just a suggestion, it's essential for success. This is all about what you put up on your screen. This table breaks down the core objectives beautifully. First things first, figure out which category you fall into. Are you a cinema with 7 screens or fewer, or are you a multiplex with 8 or more? Your targets depend on that answer. So for a standard cinema, half of all your screenings, 50%, have to be eligible films, meaning European productions. And within that, a quarter of your screenings must be non-national European films. And 10% have to be films that actually got Eurimages support themselves. These numbers are your main targets. Now here's some really good news. If your country is new to the network, they don't just throw you into the deep end. You get a welcome ramp-up period. You don't have to hit those big percentages right away in year 1. Instead, it's a progressive scale. You start at a third of the requirement, then move to half in year 2, 2/3 in year 3, and by year 4, you're meeting the full requirements. For any new applicants watching, this slide is gold. You're definitely going to want to bookmark this step for later. We've covered eligibility and programming. Now we get to the part that really requires your full attention: how the money actually works. This is the deep dive on the payoff, and trust me, understanding these mechanics is absolutely crucial for managing your expectations and, of course, maximizing your support. This is it. This is the big question that every single applicant asks. It's not some simple flat grant they mail you. The calculation is based on how well you did against those programming objectives we just talked about, but with a very important twist. Let's break it down. I want you to think of the funding in 3 building blocks. The first objective, the first block, is hitting your target for total eligible screenings. That's the 50% for a cinema or 45% for a multiplex. If you meet that goal, you unlock a theoretical support amount of 5,000 euros. The second building block is tied directly to the non-national eligible screenings objective, that 25% or 18% target. Meeting this second goal unlocks another theoretical 5,000 euros. You can already see how the support is built to reward diverse, non-domestic programming, right? And that third block is for screening the Eurimages supported films, with a target of 10% or 5%. Hitting this final objective unlocks the last piece of the puzzle, another theoretical €5,000. So if you meet all three of those programming goals, you're looking at a maximum theoretical support of €15,000. But, and you knew there was a but coming, that word theoretical is the most important word on this slide. So here it is. This is the crucial point. Your final payment is capped at €1 per non-national eligible admission. What does that mean? It means your programming gets you in the door, but it's your audience that actually determines the size of the final check. That €15,000 is a ceiling. It's not a guarantee. The number of people in the seats is what truly matters. And this comparison makes it crystal clear. Just look at these two cinemas. Both of them met all three programming objectives, so they both unlocked that full theoretical €15,000. But the cinema on the left had 16,000 non-national admissions, so they get the full 15,000. The cinema on the right, they had identical programming, but only 3,000 non-national admissions, so they only get €3,000. This is exactly why promotion and audience engagement are just as important as your programming. Now, on top of that base amount, there are two strategic bonuses you can aim for. The first gives you an extra 50 cents per admission for Eurimages films once you pass a certain threshold. The second is a bonus for organizing an event on International Women's Day that features a film by a female director. This can earn you 50 cents per admission for recent non-national films by women. These are fantastic ways to strategically top up your support. Getting the funding is not the end of the story. Not at all. It's the start of a partnership. And that partnership comes with 5 critical, non-negotiable commitments. I want you to think of these as your contractual obligations. Okay, these are the 5 pillars of your agreement, so let's treat them as critical legal steps. First up, the contract itself. Pay close attention to this clause. It is a 1-year renewable agreement. Second, the annual reporting. And again, pay close attention. You have to provide a detailed programming report by January 15th. That is a hard deadline. The other commitments are just as binding. You have to actively promote the films, you must use the official Eurimages label on all your materials, and you have to provide proof of your results whenever they ask for it. We've covered the strategy, the rules, the commitments. Now for the final, purely tactical section, your step-by-step application checklist. This is the winning play, and we're breaking it down into simple, manageable actions. Before you even think about opening the online form, prepare your dossier. You're going to need all of this information ready to go. Details on the cinema, the company, the legal representative, and most importantly, your full screening and admission data from the last year. I'm serious. Pause here to gather this information. Having it all in one place beforehand will make the entire process so much smoother. The application process itself really just has 4 clear steps. First, you email your initial info to Europa Cinemas. Second, they'll send you login details for their member zone. Third, you log in and carefully enter all of your programming data. And fourth, you physically mail the signed identification sheet and any other required documents to their office in Paris. Follow this sequence exactly as it's laid out. And finally, the deadline. For any new cinemas, your application has to be received by June 30th at 6 p.m. Central European Time. Let me be perfectly clear about this. This is an absolute, ironclad deadline. Incomplete or late applications are automatically refused, there are no extensions, and there are no exceptions. So we've gone through the entire process, from the big picture strategy all the way down to the final tactical steps. You now have the complete playbook. The only question left is this: are you ready to make the winning play for your cinema's future?